Thank you for joining us for this episode of Talking Health in the 406, where we are one community under the big sky. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jones. I'm also the program manager of the DPHHS Montana Disability and Health Program, which supports the disability community to drive futures of healthy and resilient communities. It is therefore even more fitting that I host and introduce Jean Morgan, Executive Director, and Cody Lundin, Director of Operations of Spring Meadow Resources. Spring Meadow Resources is a nonprofit organization that provides services for individuals with developmental disabilities. Individuals with developmental disabilities often need extra help in dealing with certain aspects of everyday life, including health and wellness. At Spring Meadow Resources, they provide this support through knowledgeable and caring staff that are familiar with the unique needs of the individuals they serve. For this episode, we are going to hear from Spring Meadow Resources about their 50th anniversary, their accessible garden bringing fresh food from ground to plate, and other health initiatives that have their members and staff competing to meet their daily step goals. So today we are going to talk about Spring Meadow Resources. Their 50th anniversary is the longest running disability service agency in Montana. Their growing programs, including their accessible garden and other health and wellness focused programs, and the impact of community partnerships in their work. Today we have Jean Morgan, the Executive Director, and Cody Lundin, the Director of Operations, here with us today. So I'd like to start by asking Jean and or Cody to tell us about Spring Meadow Resources. Who do you serve and what is your mission?
As you said, Spring Meadow Resources is one of the longest running organizations in the state of Montana serving adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Our program is located in the Helena community, and we have 7 group homes and a supported living program. And we also have a small day program where people come and do community activities and work in the garden and are engaged in all sorts of things to help people have just an important and meaningful day.
So this is your 50th anniversary. Tell us a little bit more about how you're celebrating this year and how you're growing your programs moving forward.
So we are trying to tell the story of our 50-year history. So we've done some work with our local radio station and TV station to give a little bit of background about our program starting in 1975, which a lot of people with disabilities did not have access to community-based services. So it really was kind of an innovative approach at the time and many communities were working toward deinstitutionalization and moving folks into community homes. And as we've gone through the years, our role as the support team to people that we serve has changed as well. It was, I think, early years, there was a lot of focus on, teaching people skills and having people, work and those kinds of things, but it was more of a custodial approach. And so I think that there came a time when people really started to look at what's important to people as well as what's important for people. And so, having activities that they could go to, or developing hobbies, or, going to community activities, being on vacation, visiting families, those kinds of priorities started to take precedence over focus on building skills and work. As we've evolved today and going forward into the future, those are kind of our goals. We want to hear from people about what's important to them, how they'd like to spend their time, what's meaningful to their life, and how can we support that and help give people the best experience that they can have. So that's our goal now. And that's also our goal going into the future, is just building more of a well-rounded, life and supports for people that help them get and achieve those goals.
Thanks, Jean. You talked about your day programs as well as having group homes, and everyone participates in your programs a little bit differently. How do they decide what programs work for them, and how do you work with them to include them in that process?
So going into a service that is going to provide supports to people, there are a lot of assessments and ways to identify what kind of medical needs do people have, what sort of skills do they need to, in just activities of daily living. Do they need help with showering or eating? Do they have a specialized diet? Do they, all of those kinds of things, and then. Or do they have equipment? All of that is looked at. For example, if somebody has a wheelchair, then they need to have access to accessible buildings and vehicles and that kind of thing. So we take a look at the needs of each person, and they're all unique and different. And then not just their needs, but also what do people want? And then we try to build a plan and implement that along with the person and a team of people that everybody has a different role. And so we then can ensure that people are not only safe and healthy, but also happy and fulfilled, and that people are thriving in their communities. And so those are all balanced and important things. And again, it's different for everybody. Not everybody wants to go bowling. Not everybody wants to go to the movie. And so it can get tricky trying to take people that need support and supervision in a bunch of different directions at the same time. But, we do our best to try to make that happen. Our staff are dedicated to making sure that people are busy and engaged and happy with the life that they lead in the Helena community.
That was wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Not everyone knows what IDD or intellectual and developmental disabilities mean. What is IDD, and what supports does that community often need and you see that you provide?
So there is a legal definition of intellectual and developmental disabilities. It talks about the onset of the disability and the kind. Is it a lifelong condition, and different kinds of disability types that might impact somebody's ability to maintain their safety, manage their finances, take care of themselves, take their medications, things such as that people are familiar with, such as Down syndrome or autism, or people born with, cerebral palsy, those kinds of disabilities. And then again, the supports differ. We work with people who, for example, are on the autism spectrum. And, there are people that are very verbal and can, express and what they need and communicate very effectively, cook their own meals. And then there are people who are nonverbal and need support in all of their daily living. So it just really varies. And we see that a lot with multiple types of diagnoses and disabilities, is that there's a sort of a spectrum involved, and where people fall, changes what their needs look like.
You mentioned, in addition to your day program and your group homes, you also support a small employment program and work with people that work in the community. What does that part of your program look like?
So Spring Meadow actually does employ a few people as part of our program. And also there are people that work across the community. Sometimes we are their support staff in their community jobs, and sometimes there are other programs who work with Voc Rehab or with another organization. And so that people have the work supports that they need. A lot of times starting out, people might need job coaching, where someone comes into the employment site, works with their coworkers, their supervisor to help build skills. If there are places where the person is struggling, that they can come back in and work together. And then hopefully they can fade that supervision and support out. Sometimes people need it throughout their employment. And we have on-site supports here. So we have people that do a little bit of janitorial work, cleaning the office and helping with groceries. And so they can have most of those folks have the supports that are going to stay in place.
That's great. Thank you. Let's talk about your health-focused programming. Jean, you are a member of the Montana Disability and Health Program Community Planning Group, a group that I help facilitate with the Montana Disability and Health Program. And it brings together disability and public health partners from across the state to advise on strategies for increasing chronic disease prevention and healthy living opportunities among Montanans with disabilities. It is clear that health is an important part of your mission at Spring Meadow Resources. Tell us why health and wellness is central to the success of your programs.
A lot of people who have intellectual and developmental disabilities need support with maintaining a healthy lifestyle. So we not only help people with, grocery shopping and meal planning and those kinds of things, we also wanted to get people more information and understanding of where food comes from. How does that work? Why is it important? Why is nutrition important? Why is movement important? I had an opportunity about 5 years ago when I came to Spring Meadow to get a grant through the Montana Council on Developmental Disabilities. And we had a half-acre space behind our office that wasn't being utilized. We were actually fencing in weeds. And so it was time to do something with that spot. And I just thought, not only was it a great opportunity for activities and kind of fun things for people to do as part of the day program, I also thought it was important to increase awareness on nutrition and build their skills in that. So we got a grant through the Montana Council, and that was one of the places where we focused was on the garden. And we've tried to make it as accessible as possible. So we have elevated raised beds so that people in wheelchairs can sit up next to them and help plant. And with partnerships with not only the Montana Council, but also with Karen Chadwick at Chadwick Nursery here in Helena, they've been very supportive and generous with helping us maintain that garden. So we're starting our 5th year of the garden, and just the fun activities that people have been able to do. And I'll let Cody speak more about that. But just, opportunities that people never have experienced, like pulling a carrot out of the dirt and people not, ever having experienced that. And for all they knew, carrots came in a plastic bag at the grocery store. So it's been eye-opening and fun, and to experience that as well, where people are just in awe. I think growing it, we've had people who maybe weren't as apt to eat a salad are eating salad every day because they grew it. And so we've had fun things with that. We had a bunch of strawberries that we grew. So we had a project, we did canning and made homemade jam and meal planning. And so that's been fun. So I'm going to let Cody talk a little bit more about the other day-to-day stuff.
Well, yeah, and can I add too that why it's so important? Because a lot of our individuals that we serve are at a higher risk for some of the preventable diseases, and then as well as a higher risk for some of the chronic diseases or conditions. So it's important to have healthy eating habits and those types of things. With the day program, some of the things that we've got going, well, I'll start with the garden. So they've started some seeds indoors, and program members really enjoyed that, as well as going to the nursery to pick out vegetables and things that they want to grow. And they have raised beds, and we have a couple greenhouses that we can put stuff in as well. So they really enjoy it, and just being able to go out there and walk through the garden and get vegetables when they want. And they really enjoy it. There's a couple that really enjoy just going and getting strawberries, and they water it as well. And also at the day program, they've started a mileage club along with healthy eating. So we got Fitbits for everybody. They got to pick out what color they wanted, and they were so anxious about it. I mean, there was one individual who we had told we were getting them for him, and he kept asking it every single day. And finally, we were ready to give them. And literally the next day, he came in. He's like, I have like 8,000 steps already. And we're like, holy cow. So it's really cool. And we see them walking by outdoors. They're really getting into it. And they've set individual goals as well as group goals. So when they hit a certain amount of steps or a mile, they get to do a fun activity of their choice, like going bowling or going out to get a healthy treat or go to the park or just things like that. So they're actually really enjoying it. So that's for the day program. And also our supported living department is getting really involved. They've done the linkage program. They're just trying to get people moving and having better eating habits as well. They've also set individual goals and group goals. They're doing fun things like they get to pick like a healthy, fun recipe, and everybody brings a dish to like a game night or something. So they've really gotten into that. Some of them have gone out and gotten exercise bikes. all sorts of things just to get moving, and gym memberships. And some of the goals they've set, could have been as small as I'm going to try out a new gym, or some people, in order to get them moving more, it might be taking a trip around Hobby Lobby or something like that, but just getting people outdoors, getting people moving, and just learning better eating habits. So I think everybody's having a lot of fun with it.
So you have talked about goals a lot as you describe the day program. And my work within the disability and health world also leans into choice and autonomy and people having the chance to plan their life that makes them happy. And Jean, you said earlier that finding ways to be happy and connected to the community is that shift that Spring Meadow Resources has experienced over the time of being an agency. Does everyone know how to create a goal? And if not, how do you support the people that you're working with to learn how to create a goal that's realistic and matches their joy and their life choices?
I think starting out doing that is a little bit tricky because we also work with people who haven't had a lot of life experiences. They've, been supported and maybe they haven't traveled a lot or lived at a lot of places or been places. So sometimes it's hard to know what you do like to do because you haven't had a lot of exposure. So that's where I think we like to start. Some of it might just be observing people. And, we've got people that the minute the weather's nice is all they want to do is be outside. So that is a good indicator for us, whether they can express that verbally or not. They're certainly communicating with us by being outside and wanting to be outside. So we've tried to honor that with not only encouraging it, but also at areas where, for example, we worried about safety because of the street. We've tried to, enclose the courtyard so that people can be outside and go in and out without always having to have a staff person with them. So creating a lot more independence. The more you spend time with people, the more you learn how they communicate. So it's, for people that understand them best to just ask questions in a way. Sometimes it's just, there are goals that say, we're going to go to 5 new places, this year, and just trying to find creative ways to understand what people are trying to communicate through asking, through exposure and giving people more experiences. And even if they don't like it, the fact that people got to try is extremely important. And I think all of us know that in our own lives that, we want the ability to make decisions about where we want to go. Some places you love, some places you don't, and some places you just put up with, so all of that creates a more expansive and fulfilled life for people, and with more experience and knowledge about what they truly do want. And all of that helps people make future decisions.
I want to go back to the garden for a little bit. You mentioned making jam with the strawberries. How else do you use the food, and how are the people that you work with involved in that process?
The program members, they can go out and they can get, strawberries when they want, and carrots or anything really. And then a lot of it's salads and just kind of snacks and stuff. And then we have plans to make, salsa with the tomatoes and just little things like that.
Last year, they picked all the squashes and zucchinis and they made ratatouille and then watched the movie Ratatouille. So that was super fun. And just, the staff, I think, have been good about trying to come up with themes. Yeah, things like that.
How has this push for healthy eating and physical activity impacted the staff along with the people you're serving?
I think that they enjoy it. I mean, definitely. We have several team members that really enjoy being in the kitchen and cooking and coming up with recipes and getting the individuals involved. So I see that it's been positive, really. And it's just a fun thing to be able to be outdoors. Right now they're planning the garden cleanup. They're getting out there and getting things cleaned up and ready to plant. So I've seen it just be positive for everybody, really.
I think that people that we support are the greatest part of what we do with our employment, with our jobs. Everybody loves to work with the program members, but also, there are parts of the job that are not as, as glamorous and exciting. And so to have something new and innovative where we're asking people, what do you think? And for their ideas is really inspirational and motivating for people. I just, and not that they don't like all aspects, even the things that aren't so glamorous of taking care of people or helping support people, new ideas and innovation. And we try to create a culture here at Spring Meadow where people matter, their opinions matter. We ask what they think.
What other benefits does the garden bring to Spring Meadow Resources and to the community, whether it's introduction to bees or bats or community partnerships?
Obviously, partnerships with the Montana Council. We were able to use some of the money also to start some fruit trees. So we're hoping to continue to add that to the garden. We had a parent just come out with, 10 rhubarb plants and planted them in the garden. We work where our office is located. We also have the benefit of the Prickly Pear Land Trust Trail System that runs along 10 Mile Creek. Our property intersects with that, and we also have an easement agreement with them so that the community can come in and cross over our property to walk the trail. It's accessible, so the folks that we serve can be out there. But we're right next door to George's. We're right from the Archie Bray. They've been excellent partners and just trying to find ways to support what we do. Same with Prickly Pear. We have a couple of program members that actually get paid to do some trail maintenance for them. So it's just been a great partnership. Like I said, with Chadwick's, we've had other places, ask how they can help and donate. We've had one of our healthcare providers a couple of years ago donated some money for the garden. So it's really been it's really just been a group effort, and we want to continue to expand that as well. We've only been doing this will be our 5th year, and so the more we can grow the opportunity and get people out here to see what we do, the better it is for everybody. It just gives people an education about folks with disabilities, and also it just exposes the program, and it's just positive because we're a big contributing member of the Helena community. We're not doing it anymore, but a couple of years ago, we grew pumpkins and for one of the local breweries, and they used the pumpkins. All the program members came and we delivered those, and then they used those pumpkins to make their seasonal pumpkin ale. So that was a fun project that we collaborated with them on, and I think we're just hoping to do more of that kind of thing. We've got some ideas and some things in the works with some other community businesses that we want to partner with. So it's exciting. Things to come.
That's wonderful, having ways to grow the program and, like you said, remain inspired and motivated.
That's kind of our theme going into the future. As part of celebrating our 50th is help us grow our program. And so, literally and figuratively grow, with, additional, support through generous community donations, or just watching us be able to build on ideas and create more opportunities for people.
Is there anything more you want to share about the garden?
I think it's just a huge sense of accomplishment for people. Like, we did this, we grew this for the sake of doing it, and it just makes you happy. As we expand and go forward, we'd like to grow flowers and things like that. But I just think it's been a positive increase in people's interest and something to do, and a sense of accomplishment and achievement, that for just the sake of doing something fun for the heck of it. And that hasn't always been something that the people that we support have had those opportunities to just do something just for this because it makes you happy. And I think that's the stuff that really, makes all of our lives feel complete, are the places and the people and the things that we get to do for the sheer joy of doing it. So not just healthy, but also healthy in other ways, like emotional health.
Cody, would you add anything?
Something actually happened today, going back to not necessarily the garden, but the Fitbits and getting people's steps in their individual goals. We have one program member who requires a wheelchair for majority of her mobility, and she got out of her wheelchair this morning to get some steps in with her feet. So it was really cool to see just her being encouraged to just to move, because she's able to. It's just more challenging for her, and she did it, and she was so proud of herself. So that was pretty cool to see.
That's how important it was to her. And so that may not have been something that she would have thought a lot about, but here she is seeing all of her peers wear a little Fitbit, walk around, and she's like, I'm going to do that too. She maybe took 20 steps.
Maybe, but
she was so proud.
So proud of herself, being cheered on by her staff and her peers. And it was just really cool.
I did want to jump over to the linkage, which is related to the Fitbits and how that program started. Spring Meadow Resources has participated in the Montana Disability and Health Program Linkage Demonstration Program workshops. And that's a long way of saying the program links people that have had their disability since they were young. So that's looking back who have intellectual and developmental disabilities, linking them to needed health care and health promotion programs that align with self-directed goals. Like we keep saying over and over, what are their goals that lead to their health? Because that's the only way that behavior changes, if they feel happy and joyful and it's their goal of choosing. You've mentioned many of these goals, including small goals like step counts or going outside, to getting access to more community events, and how those goals lead us to making decisions that are healthier in our life. What did that program look like for members, and why do you feel like it was successful for them to create those goals and lead to everyone getting a Fitbit?
Working with your team on the linkage program, I thought it was important because we really wanted to make nutrition and movement a daily activity for people. And it's easier because we have a big part of that program working at our day program. But with folks in supported living, sometimes they're doing some of those activities without staff support, like going to the grocery store. So sometimes you see not the healthiest purchases for groceries. And so how can we take the program and implement it there and have people, pick those goals that they want to work on. And some people have identified, I'm going to make sure that I have at least one vegetable added to my diet, 4 days a week or whatever it is. So even those things. So I think bringing it to the forefront for people and giving them an opportunity to think about it and not being told by staff, oh, you should do this, you should do that. And, not that people try to, interact with folks in a way that doesn't promote independence, but sometimes it's frustrating where you want people to take a look at maybe another option. And I think it just brought it to the forefront. And then when people were kind of empowered and in charge of it, they came up with some pretty amazing things on their own. And Cody can talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and I think just making it fun, making it a thing what they can do with their friends, and setting goals is exciting, and knowing that if you reach your goal, you might get to do something fun. And some of the goals, could be, every week I'm going to choose a new recipe to make something healthy. Or, I'm going to add healthier things to my grocery list, and then being able to just do it also, not only individually, but together with your roommate, together with your neighbors, your peers. They've really enjoyed that. And then getting to plan, get-togethers to talk about their successes and share their new, recipes that they're learning, and also getting, some one-on-one time with the team members, the staff that they enjoy working with. I think that it's just, it's really positive.
And I think, too, when people have actually seen and experienced success, that this isn't just something that somebody's throwing out at me that, oh, yeah, they want me to, why should I do that? Well, when you have people who struggle with, joint issues or their weight, and that's become a goal, and now they're walking more and they're eating healthier and they actually feel a little bit better and they see that progress, that is a reward in and of itself that, that people see that it's making a positive impact on their life and they're having fun doing it. So, who doesn't like that? And I think that's true for all of us. I mean, I walk more when I have somebody to walk with. I think that's true for all of us. And so just experiencing that, it's not that it hasn't always been encouraged, but like we are really leading it now and just, wanting to kind of have everybody sort of take charge of this and just see where it goes. So we're really excited about the impact it's had. People so receptive and motivated by it. It's just been really exciting to see.
Cody, earlier you mentioned people with disabilities experience chronic disease or secondary conditions more often than people without disabilities. Montana adults with disability experience health disparities and are 2 to 3 times more likely than adults without disability to report depression, smoking, diabetes, heart disease, and long COVID. 29%, or about 1 in 4 Montana adults, have a disability, and 14% identify as having a cognitive disability. So this isn't a small group of people. We're talking about a significant part of our adult population in Montana, and finding ways to support that population in our community so that they can have opportunities for eating healthier and physical activity and participating in the community. You at Spring Meadow Resources are such an important piece to that progress that we have seen in creating healthier and more inclusive environment. Other conditions that are of concern among people with IDD but aren't always considered by health providers as important to think about in people without disability include malnourishment, aspiration or choking, constipation, urinary tract infection, and pressure sores. And that's why it's really important to create environments that encourage healthy eating and physical activity that can lower someone's chance of experiencing these conditions. In your experience, Jean and Cody, what are some other health conditions that are common among people with IDD that your programs are helping to reduce?
Commonly, we see, what they call the fatal 5, where there are people who are at greater risk of things that you talked about, like constipation and, seizure disorders and trying to think of some of the others. Aspiration, dehydration. Those are some of the things. You also see people who are at greater risk of falling, some coordination imbalance that we see commonly. And people are at great risk of serious injuries when they have falls. And so another reason why, movement is so important is to increase people's, stability and balance and all of that. But we see people that have experienced all of those things. Diabetes, you name it, people that are on oxygen. And some of that is because of the damage that's been done to their lungs with chronic aspiration, even just on their own secretions. And so it really puts people at risk. And people don't always identify. I think we have a lot of folks that have, because of their disability that started when they were young, they probably had some chronic illnesses. And so people are kind of troopers and they just, they live their life every day not feeling so great. And so sometimes it's harder for people to understand when those things change or when things become sort of critical. So it's really important. That's where the support staff really come in. And these guys do a great job trying to read, what might be happening with people, and people who can't communicate, I don't feel good. And, just observing. And so that becomes a really important part of that as well. Yeah, we've seen all of that, people that struggle with nutrition and weight and all of those things that then can chronically lead to other things like joint issues and back problems. And, it can be kind of a snowball.
Do you have a set of supports that are always available? How do you work with each individual to identify the supports that they need? And when you don't have that available, what do you do to ensure that you can support that person and reaching their potential?
It's kind of built into our programs. So yes, I think that there is always somebody available to help maintain this or help ensure that it gets done daily, because it's built into the program. So like for our day program, it's just part of their day. The movement, it's part of the schedule. They it's they get their Fitbits and it's part of their day right now. And same with our supported living, even our residential homes too. They do a lot of healthy cooking and portion control and weight monitoring and exercising. So it's built into their plans and into the daily routines. Are some days better than others? Sure. And some days are more focused on it. Absolutely. But I think that it is just part of our day to day.
And as far as like the larger system goes for organizations like Spring Meadow that are providing home and community-based services for people, there are required standards that we have to uphold. So everybody has an annual plan. It's referred to as their personal support plan. And everybody has an annual plan. And within that plan, there's a team of people that support that person. They have a case manager, they have their family or guardian, they have the people that provide their residential services and people that provide their work day services. And there are goals that we work on in conjunction with the person about what do you want your year to look like, or what are you working on this year that will get you to where you want to be in 5 years. So there's shorter term goals, longer term goals. They typically involve health and safety, which is one of the ways that as organizations we are judged is, are we ensuring people are healthy and safe? And so we have protocols in place to make sure that people are getting their medication, that they have oxygen, that they get to the doctor, that they have a dentist, that they meet with somebody to talk about any of their mental health issues, all of that package that would go around, somebody, depending on their individual needs. And then there are the things that people want to, build their skills in or learn more about. So maybe somebody wants to, learn how to cook a simple meal. So we would help them build those skills. And, and it just kind of goes on, and it's unique and individual. And where do people want to go? As we want to help people, live, work, and play and thrive in their communities, where do people want to be? And again, that's where sometimes it's experimenting a little bit because people haven't always had a lot of experiences. And so, the day-to-day and the supports are built into that. And then we have staff. We could not do this work without the direct care staff who support people 24/7, 365. And they wear many, many hats, and they have a lot that they need to learn and that they need to keep track of. They need to be able to know when somebody might be getting sick if they can't tell you. They need to be able to comfort somebody when they found out that their mom passed away. They have to be able to get people to the doctor. They have to manage situations where people maybe aren't regulating very well, and so they're having some challenging behavior. People that don't communicate well. I mean, all the hat, and they have to be the activities director and the transportation person and all of that. So they're incredibly important in everything that we do. And we could not do this work without our workforce. And we're also grateful that there has been a lot of attention and focus on ensuring that we're supporting workforce so that people can make this type of work a career, and that they have, access to paid time off and retirement plans and health insurance. And so that it isn't just a little job. I mean, this is an important career. I feel blessed that I was able to make this work my career. And I couldn't have done that without some of those supports in place where I could support my family, and do this work that I love.
How do you hope to be a model for other organizations, whether that's specifically to the Accessible Garden, a day program, the way you support your direct support providers? How do you hope to be a model for other organizations?
I think our culture and just continuing to work collaboratively with other providers in the community. We're all here doing the same thing with the same goals and wanting the same things for our program members. So just having a good culture, though, I think is the key, and just working well with others and sharing ideas.
There's multiple providers in the state of Montana, and we all are trying to do the same work. And, and sometimes, we all kind of are limited on, what our pay is. We feel like, what sets us apart from people. And I think that that would be our culture and how people feel about working here, and do people feel like they matter and that they're listened to and that their ideas are supported, and that we collaborate and we approach things as a team. And even if your idea doesn't get implemented, the fact that you were able to give an idea is extremely important to people. And so, it's always a work in progress. We're always, setting the bar a little bit higher next time so that we can continue to not get complacent, and that we're always paying attention to what are people telling us, not just the program members, but also our workforce, and how are we making sure that we're supporting them and making them feel like they're part of something extremely important, and that they're making a difference in somebody's life. And we've also said maybe you're making a difference in somebody's life, and it might even be your own, because of how rewarding this kind of work can be.
I have a clarifying question. Earlier, you mentioned home and community-based services. What is the difference between home and community-based services and institutional living and other options that people have? And what's the value of what you're doing at Spring Meadow Resources?
Growing up in an institution was not uncommon, 50 plus years ago. And in the 1960s, the Medicaid waiver program was established. And basically what that looked at was that the Medicaid funding wasn't just exclusive to institutions or nursing homes, those kinds of care facilities, that we could waive that and have people move into their communities and be supported in the communities. And so, like I said, Spring Meadow started in 1975, and that was kind of the early onset of that deinstitutionalization and moving people into community-based services. We're funded through the state of Montana and the federal government with Medicaid and Medicare services. And we are monitored by what's called CMS, which is the Center for Medicaid Services. And they establish standards for states and what broad standards of what the expectation is on what the service delivery needs to look like. So, which would be things like access to the community, and how are we going to make sure that people get to access our community, especially people who can't do it alone and they need the supervision and support in the community. And so we build our programs around some standards, but also I think just, what's considered best practice. And we want what we provide here at Spring Meadow to be best practice, and that we are helping people live well-rounded, fulfilled lives.
Best practice has shown that people who live in the community do have better health outcomes and experience fewer secondary conditions and have access to more health supports. Would you add anything to that?
I agree for several reasons. I think that that the work of our partners and our colleagues who are providing supports to people in, the Montana State Hospital or nursing homes, or, any of those kinds of facilities that are larger, there are things that can compound issues that people experience when they're living in those environments, whether it's because they're living with a lot more people and not having smaller environments that we try to have in the community. Where only, 6 people are living together, or 4 people, depending on how well people live with others. I think that you've got people that have a higher level of need sometimes. So there are things that happen in those environments that can, create noise and, situations that can get a little more chaotic, which can be difficult for people to watch or to be involved in. And I know how difficult that work can be. And so our colleagues that can help, people in a more secure environment get stabilized, that's always the goal, is to move people back into their communities and with maybe better supports or strategies. And sometimes we're limited in the community with what we're able to do, and which then puts people's safety at risk. And so those are important parts of the whole continuum of care.
Jean, what has been the most important or most impactful part of being the executive director or a staff member at Spring Meadow Resources for you?
The people. It always is the people. You're nervous when we're coming into a program, especially where people have been there longer than you and they're established. And I knew that I had an opportunity to bring a lot of experience and some fresh ideas to the table. But I was so supported and people were so receptive to me being here. And I have felt very welcomed. And again, that says something about our culture. And I've worked in the field of intellectual and developmental disabilities for longer than I probably even want to say, for over 40 years. And so I've worked with a lot of different people. It's always the people, but to come here and meet and work with folks who, again, I had never had an opportunity to work with, staff that I didn't have an opportunity to work with. Our team members were just wonderful and very, very welcoming. And so to be able to just kind of roll up our sleeves and say, let's get to work and we've got some new ideas and fresh ideas. People have just been enthusiastic and open to it. Change can be scary, but I feel like people have been really open to it and just said, let's go. Let's do this. So it's been really a fun experience.
Cody, what has been the most impactful for you as operations director or as a staff member in working at Spring Meadow Resources?
For me, this year I've been here 17 years. And I was just kind of becoming who I was going to be as a person, as an adult. And I know that it truly has made me a better person. I know that working here has helped me be more patient, be more understanding, and just knowing that I'm literally changing people's lives for the better, and they have changed mine for the better, 100%. It's just a feel good. It's just, you just feel so good.
Mm-hmm.
So it has shaped me into being a good human, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
In my own, here in the workplace, but also at home with my family and my children. I mean, it's changed my life for the better.
I would echo that as well.
Could not imagine doing anything different. I need them as much as they need me.
Cody or Jean, is there anything that you want to share?
I mean, the only thing that I always like to plug is, how people can help continue support our program. And, there are ways, if people go to our website, there are ways that people can donate to help us continue to expand and build our program. We have limited funding and, we do the best with the funds that we have. We always could use support and help with our community. So we think it's important that people know what we do and how we are, benefiting the community. We have 150 plus people that work and are supported by Spring Meadow that live, work, and recreate in the Helena community. So we impact the economy in positive ways, but we have needs that we would appreciate the support. So we're always looking for people who want to get on board with us as donors and, stay connected that way and ways that they can help us with our mission and our work going to the future.
Thank you for listening to the Talking Health in the 406 podcast, where we are one community under the big sky. I am your host, Mackenzie Jones. We'd like to thank our guests, Jean Morgan and Cody Lundin with Spring Meadow Resources, for sharing their story. If you would like more information on what you heard today, visit our website at talkinghealthinthe406.mt.gov. If you haven't already, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Thank you and have a wonderful rest of your day.